Richard Rohr, Falling Upward, A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life, a Companion Journal. Embark on a journey of self-discovery and spiritual growth with Richard Rohr's Falling Upward, A Spirituality for the Two Halves of Life. The book delves into the importance of understanding the two distinct phases of life and how one transitions from the first half to the second half. Drawing on insights from Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey and the spiritual wisdom of different cultures and religions, Rohr guides readers into the deeper and more meaningful stage of life. The book helps readers recognize where they stand in the continuum of life and how to transition, unraveling the significance of finding one's true self, letting go of the false self, and embracing a new perspective.
Unraveling the Two Halves of Life. Life can be divided into two halves, not necessarily related to age. The concept of these two halves is derived from Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey, a universal narrative shared across different cultures. The first half of life represents the protagonist's initial adventures, while the second half is about deeper self-discovery and imparting acquired wisdom to others. Many people remain in the first half, unaware of the second half's existence. Recognizing which half one belongs to can assist in transitioning out of the first half or provide reassurance in the second. In life, aging does not solely determine our move from the first half to the second half. In fact, these two halves of life aren't always related to age at all. Some individuals, especially those who have faced hardships, might enter the second half of life quite early, whereas others might never experience it at all. So, what exactly do we mean by these two halves of life? To answer this question, it's crucial to understand Joseph Campbell's Hero's Journey. Campbell, a renowned comparative mythologist and theologist, observed that numerous unrelated cultures shared a similar narrative arc in their myths. This universal storyline, called the monomyth of the hero, is the base layer for understanding the two halves of life. The hero's journey unfolds as follows: the protagonist, often royal or possessing hidden divine origins, lives in a content and idyllic world. They embark on an adventure that pushes them out of their comfort zone, and during this quest, they encounter problems. The process of solving these problems enlarges and opens up their world, transforming their perspective as well. Though the protagonist initially believes they have completed their task, the real work for them begins later as they delve deeper into self-discovery. Eventually, they return to their origins and, seeing it with newfound clarity, share the wisdom they've gained with others. This hero's journey mirrors our progression from the first to the second half of life. Throughout history, various sacred and secular writings have explained this transition, providing insights on navigating from one half of life to the other. Observing people in the second half of life and those who never move beyond the first half can also teach us about this profound shift. A significant challenge is that many individuals are unaware that a second half of life even exists. Various factors contribute to a person remaining in the first half throughout their entire life, which will be explored in the next chapter. However, recognizing which half of life you're in is crucial. It can facilitate the transition out of the first half or offer reassurance and comfort to those in the second half, affirming they're exactly where they're meant to be. First half life culture. Living in a first half of life culture, we focus on building our external identities and foundations for our lives, like relationships, communities, and careers. These structures provide us with predictability, security, and a sense of identity. However, it's crucial to move beyond this stage and, instead, explore the meaningful contents or purpose for these containers in the later part of our lives. Drawing inspiration from Homer's Odyssey, we should embrace the hero's journey of self-discovery and growth. Throughout history, our society has been a first half of life culture. Our primary concerns revolve around survival, leading us to invest our energy in building elements that define our identities. We focus on forming relationships, creating communities, and establishing careers to create a reliable foundation for our lives. These foundational steps serve as a container that influences the development of our character and values. In the beginning, our growth relies heavily on these external factors. We depend on established beliefs, traditions, and authorities to guide our development within a safe, secure, and predictable environment. Consequently, we're equipped with a distinct and familiar sense of morality and stability that helps to tame our egos and build up a solid identity. These basic building blocks are essential for our early growth, as they enable us to form a strong relationship with the outside world. However, as we progress into the second half of our lives, it's crucial to shift our focus inwards and examine the contents or purpose of our established containers. Unfortunately, many of us continue to dedicate our time and effort into maintaining and upgrading our containers, neglecting the need to enrich its inner substance. Our cultural, social, and religious institutions are designed to support and reward first life objectives, leaving us in a constant state of dissatisfaction as we continue to complete the structures without considering the underlying meaning or purpose. Inspired by Homer's Odyssey, we should embrace the hero's journey, which entails overcoming external obstacles only to uncover greater personal growth and self-discovery. In the Odyssey, the hero, Odysseus, endures 10 years of hardships and adventures before finally returning home to reunite with his loved ones. Yet, the story doesn't end with his homecoming. 2 additional chapters depict a second journey he must undertake. Even in ancient Greece, there was an awareness that simply building the foundation of one's life wasn't enough. A deeper exploration and understanding of our lives are necessary. As we move through different stages of life, we must remember that focusing solely on the first half of life and constructing our containers is not enough. To truly thrive and find meaning, recognizing and embracing the hero's journey towards self-awareness and genuine fulfillment in the second half of life is vital. Embracing life's second half. Odysseus's second journey, as depicted in Homer's epic, teaches lessons about transitioning from the first half to the second half of life. It illustrates the importance of letting go of old ways, embracing new perspectives, and realizing that the transition cannot be achieved through willpower alone. Instead, it requires individuals to fall upward, embracing a downturn before rising stronger, much like Odysseus had to descend to Hades before embarking on his transformative second journey. Returning home after a perilous adventure, the famed hero Odysseus sets out on a second journey, as foretold by the blind seer Tiresias during their encounter in Hades. This voyage to the realm of the dead can be seen as reaching rock bottom, but it's here that Odysseus gains valuable insights for his life to come. Leaving his island home of Ithaca, Odysseus's metaphorical reconnection with the greater world is symbolized by his return to the mainland. He's instructed to travel inland with an oar until he encounters someone who mistakes it for a winnowing shovel, a tool for separating grain from chaff. This meeting marks the end of his journey, symbolizing the initiation into a new stage of life, much like a child parting ways with their treasured toys. To embrace this transformation, Odysseus must shed aspects of his past, represented by the ram, bull, and boar he sacrifices to the sea god Neptune. These creatures symbolize the raw and immature energy that served him well in the past but must now be relinquished. In its place, new tools and perspectives will emerge, allowing him to navigate the second half of his life. His willingness to adapt and embrace change, rather than resist it, means Odysseus can return home to Ithaca, living the remainder of his life earthened by the wisdom of his trials, ready even for a peaceful, inevitable death. Like Odysseus, individuals must transition from the first half to the second half of life, acknowledging that such a shift cannot materialize through determination or personal virtue alone. As spiritual author Richard Rohr observes, one's path into this new stage requires them to fall upward, paralleling Odysseus' visit to the underworld. Through falling, they can begin to rise, reshaped by the experiences that ground them. The complexity of this transformative journey can feel daunting for those in their first half of life, as the true depth of its meaning only emerges once they have traversed the downward path and emerged on the other side, wiser and renewed. Embracing life's stumbles. Life's transitional periods can be marked as a shift from the loyal soldier that carried us through the first half of life to the second journey, where we let go and embrace something more enduring. This journey often begins with a stumbled or intense loss, which can seem like necessary suffering, but ultimately leads us to recognizing our authentic selves. By willingly letting go of our false self, we discover our true face, the identity we had before we were born, and through that, we learn to live in the big picture and embrace the fullness of life. In a post-World War II Japanese ritual, returning soldiers were acknowledged and thanked before being told that their service is no longer needed, as they are being called by the community to serve a different purpose. This discharging of the loyal soldier is symbolic of the transition from one life chapter to another, from protection and strict boundaries to growth and exploration of the unknown. The loyal soldier helped construct our identity in the first half of life, ensuring our safety, and teaching critical decision-making skills. But as we venture into the second part of life, the soldier is unable to guide us further. Just as the hero Odysseus had to move from being a loyal soldier to undertake his second journey, so must we find the strength to part ways with our own loyal soldier. When we let go of the loyal soldier, it can feel like a severe death, as we distance ourselves from the familiar. At this point, many lack the courage to proceed and require a guide or a stumbling block to push them forward. However, wise guides are rare, and often it is only when the loyal soldier no longer serves us that we finally discharge them. This moment of disconnection brings us to the falling well or stumbling block, a point in life where we encounter something we cannot handle, regardless of skills, knowledge, or willpower. This necessary suffering is crucial as it challenges us to leave our comfort zones for personal growth. Experiencing necessary suffering is inevitable in life. Psychoanalyst Carl Jung emphasized that refusing to acknowledge human suffering leads to neurosis and, ultimately, contributes to even more pain. However, we cannot manufacture our own necessary fall. Engineering a pre-planned struggle will not wield genuine transformation but rather short-term, self-induced improvements. Richard Rohr speaks of this genuine transformation as a relinquishment of control, allowing life's stumbles to become our real guide. Embracing necessary suffering frees us to find our true selves, to discover who we were before any societal constructs or personal expectations. Finding our true selves often requires loss, humiliation, and the like, as portrayed in Odysseus's journey and numerous mythologies, as well as in gospel teachings. Jesus professed the importance of losing our false self in order to find our true self, an identity that cannot be reduced to roles, titles, or images. Zen masters refer to this true self as the face you had before you were born, while Rohr describes it as rooted in the mind and heart of God. This discovery leads to living in the big picture, where we become a part of both time and history, fully embracing life's entirety. For Jesus, this ultimate realization is achieved when residing in the kingdom of God. Embracing life's second half. As people transition into the second half of their lives, they shift from striving to stand out to embracing commonalities and cultivate a sense of bright sadness and sober happiness. This stage leads to a more influential presence, the ability to think non-dualistically, and a deeper connection with the world. The second half of life is about personal growth and understanding, moving beyond superficial judgments, and finding happiness in simply being. In the second half of life, our perspective experiences a profound shift. We begin to view life with a sense of bright sadness and sober happiness. Despite the presence of darkness, we are more equipped to handle it with grace and reduced anxiety, thanks to our experiences and relationships. Our thought patterns also transform, as we let go of past hurts and refrain from judging others, replacing our feelings of superiority with humility and understanding. As we age, our focus shifts from setting ourselves apart to understanding shared experiences, which in turn expands our containers. We no longer seek differentiation from our friends and family but instead search for things we have in common. We abandon the need to stand out or change others and find contentment in simply existing, present and connected. This shift in mentality leads to an influential and authoritative presence. True elders are able to define the depth of conversations by just being present, and when they do speak, they use few but powerful words. In the second half of life, we no longer require firm opinions on everything, nor do we feel compelled to change others to find personal happiness. Our influence comes from authentically embodying ourselves and offering help through simply being present. Another aspect of the second half of life is the experience of double belonging. No single group we belong to can fulfill all our needs and desires, and we develop a capacity for non-dualistic, both-and thinking. This mindset transcends categorizing things as completely right or wrong, leading us toward a more flexible understanding. Jesus serves as an example of this non-dualistic thinking, exemplified by his teachings on good and bad, as well as recognizing the intrinsic interconnection of life. Misconceptions of the second half of life tend to focus on aging, health problems, and physical decline. However, evolving our perception enables us to view this stage as an opportunity to fall upward into a richer, more profound connection with the world around us. In his 40s, Richard Rohr experienced this falling upward as he recognized the disparity in how others perceived him and learned to differentiate between people projecting their own issues versus those who truly knew him. In the second half of life, we become more attuned to these distinctions, fostering deeper and more meaningful relationships. The only obstacle preventing us from embarking on this second life journey is ourselves. Some form of pain or falling is necessary for this growth, and we should not dwell on lost relationships or identities. Instead, we should embrace the challenges life presents and allow growth and transformation to take place. Embrace the second half of life and immerse yourself in the bigger, deeper, and more connected world that awaits.
In the quest for personal growth and spiritual development, Falling Upward takes us through the two phases of life and the significant differences between them. While the first half is all about building our identity and creating the foundation for our lives, the second half calls for a transition that is transformative, profound, and deeply connected with our true selves. Whether it is learning to cope with life's challenges, embracing the wisdom of the elder, or engaging in non-dualistic thinking, Richard Rohr's thought-provoking work serves as a guide for the curious and the seekers, those who yearn to live life to the fullest and understand the world within and around them. Ultimately, it is our choice to embark on this journey of self-discovery and growth, to fall upward into the expansive realm of our true selves.